Hi, I'm Sarah Griffin. I'm here for Film Ireland and for the Women in Film and Television podcast. And I'm here with Julie Ryan, producer of The Young Offenders, which is out in cinemas Friday the 16th.
Yes.
And it jointly won the Best Irish Feature at this year's Film Flat. So, first of all, thanks a million for taking the time to talk with us.
Thanks a million for having me in.
Yeah, and we'll jump straight into it. First question, how did you become involved in The Young Offenders?
I've worked with Peter Foot for years actually, and I was, he actually used to live above an office that I worked in years ago. I used to do Nationwide in capital D.
Oh, right.
And Peter and his now wife Hilary used to live above us, so I kind of got to know him then. And then I went away for around 3 years working abroad, and I came back kind of half on holidays and met Peter, and he told me about a show he was doing called The Fear. He was doing with Derek Dillon, who we work with a lot as well, and I was like, right, straight away, yeah, it sounds great, let's do it. So we ended up making 4 seasons of that together, and then at the same time we're kind of in development and a lot of other things, and so we've been working together now like for I suppose around 3 or 4 years, like on and off since I came back, but I've known him for years. He called me up one day and we made 2 seasons of The Fear back to back because RTÉ were kind of worried that people would get to know the characters. It's a hidden camera show, you know. So then that summer we didn't have another show to make, and we're like, right, instead of going to work for other people, let's just go on ahead and like make a movie. We both wanted to make a movie. We're like, you know, we'd both made multiple shorts before. So we're like, right, this is the time to do it.
Yeah.
And then he went away and thought about it for probably like 5 minutes, came up with like loads of different ideas. And he just called me in the car one day and was like, I have an idea for a movie. And he just pitched to me, and straight away I was like, I'm in, let's do it.
Yeah.
We're like, we had no idea how we were going to do it. We didn't have crew, we didn't have finance. We're like, right, we're going to do it. So we just made that decision straight away.
And this was your first feature start to finish, wasn't it?
This is my first feature producing, and also Peter's first feature as a writer, director, producer.
Right, okay.
So
you're both out there together, kind of.
Yeah.
Taking it to the unknown.
If we're both going to fall, we will fall together.
Yeah.
And I think that was the case for a lot of people on the crew as well. It was kind of a first time effort where I suppose everyone was like, you know, very like really, really up for it. And I mean, Peter's
enthusiastic.
Yeah, exactly. Like there wasn't one person who wasn't enthusiastic on the crew. Like it was kind of like when they were getting on board, it was like, are they good crack? Yeah, brilliant. Are you up for this? I mean, the story itself wasn't hard to like, you know, pitch to anyone because it's based on a, you know, a real life story of the drugs bust down in West Cork, and the whole story itself is actually like comical. And I mean, you know the story, like, you know, the drugs bust down in Dunlock Bay back in 2007. So basically, the drug dealers came in and they miscalculated the amount, the weight on some of the bales of cocaine. And so they put them in a dinghy, and the dinghy capsized, and so 2 of the drug dealers were basically drowning, and the other one went to get help, and then all hell broke loose and everyone came down, and the police were there and everyone was there, and all the bales were floating in the water. And the next day it was all over the news. So all the locals were kind of saying like it was a very odd number, you know, that was found. So this is the story of the extra bale that wasn't found, you know.
Perfect, yeah.
As I said, the story was comical in that they even called the boat was named The Unlucky Day, like, you know. So like all the locals had a story about what happened, or they found a bale here or found a bale there, and when we actually
had a lot of legs, like your idea, you know.
Yeah. Like there was just comedy jumping like from like the page, you know. But we even went down there in a recce, and it was myself and Hilary and Peter and Paddy, and we stopped just to take a look at this bridge we thought would be good for them to jump off. We basically kind of parked just like on the corner, not even like a proper parking space. Hilary was like, I think something's happening with the car. And we looked back and we're like, she's like, I think they're robbing us. And we're like, no one's robbing us. Like, what are you talking about? Next thing, she starts legging it back. We realise that the car has pulled up, smashed her window, robbed all her bags out of the back in like 2 seconds. And she was like legging it back, and then we all started legging it back. So then we hopped in the car and took chase after this other car. We didn't know what we were doing, like, and went down the road and stopped a local. We're like, where did that car go? You know, Hilary remembered the reg and the colour and everything. And so we went on this wild goose chase after this car, and then we lost them, but we called the police, and there was none of the local police were around because there was a big race on that day, you know. So then we were like, let's go to Bandon Police Station. Went there, and they put out a call, and it just so happens that whoever was like on the radio at the race looked up at the same time, and they saw that car with that description going past them. So then they got in the car and took chase, and they actually caught them, like they followed them into the city, and they caught them up there, and it turns out they had robbed a load of people down before us and robbed everyone, but they had thrown our bags out and thrown everything out along the way. But they threw them out fairly soon after they left us, so we actually went down on foot and we went around looking everywhere, and the locals kept kind of stopping, and they're like, "Oh, are you the ones looking for the bags, or are you the ones looking for the dog?" Because 2 people were going around. But I don't know, we ended up getting everything back, like bar one thing, but it was pretty ironic.
That's some serious on location shooting.
That's on the young offenders recce, we got robbed. But yeah, so Peter, like, basically he put pen to paper and wrote it like in record time, and like, I mean, the script totally evolved, but like the core idea was there from the start, and like it was funny from the second he gave us the first draft, you know.
And it keeps it quite natural as well, you know. If it's flown like that from a story that people will remember, you know, it's going to feel real.
Yeah, and also it's kind of loosely based on like him and his friend going on a trip down to West Cork back in the day. So I don't know.
It's got local colour.
I don't know if Wilderpoo was in their story, but you know, a lot of the gags would have came out of his own experiences and his friends' experiences. You know.
Great. Okay. So, you know, when you look at the kind of things that you've done over the years, you've got quite an eclectic kind of background, which is great because all of that experience, I'm sure, has fed into where you are now. You know, but I mean, you did a sport. You were a sportscaster. You were working storyboarding. You know, so you were involved in quite a lot. And before you started getting into the kind of producer level stuff, and of course you travelled quite a lot. So you were in America, you were in LA, you were in Hollywood, and Vancouver and Australia. So you were working with quite a few different industries, I suppose, before coming back again to Ireland.
Bit of variety, like.
Yeah. And I mean, like, do you feel that it's in a way a necessary evil to leave Ireland and go away to other countries and experience sort of bigger industries? Because our own is small, you know. I mean, we have to say it's a smaller industry, even though we produce some movies that are just worldwide, you know, smashes. Do you feel that that's a necessary thing? Did you feel that moving away was something that you needed to do at that point?
I always knew I wanted to work in like film and TV, and like I kind of fell into film after college. So I went to UCD and I did Irish and Information Studies. Right. So I'm basically like an Irish speaking librarian. Yeah. Not anymore, but
hey, I'd say the cataloguing helps you now when you're doing all the work for producing. Nothing's ever wasted.
All about the cataloguing. But because I went to UCD, then like I was involved in the radio there, and like that's kind of how I got into media, I suppose. But I always knew I wanted to.
They have a very strong film school there as well.
They do now, yeah. They didn't really have much going when I was there at the time. They didn't actually have the film school, but I liked kind of both anyway, you know, which was great. Like, and then I did my postgrad in Griffith in journalism and media communications, which was great. And they have a great broadcast course there. And Tanya Doyle was like, you know, my teacher, and made some great documentaries. And that was kind of the start for me, you know. But I had a sports teacher, Don McLean, who's you know, works in the industry, and he worked in sport and TV3, and I love sport as well. I may not be the most knowledgeable person at sport, but I was like, right, I really want to be a sportscaster. Yeah. And that was just a kind of, you know, I jumped many things. Oh, this is what I want to do this week. So I managed to get into TV3, and I trained there in the sports department. So that's when I started doing a bit of sports reporting on Aircom League Weekly. So I think they were just having a laugh, really throwing me out.
You didn't have Champions League stuff back then, you know.
I think Kieran Holden was having a bit of a laugh at my expense, really, sending me out to the pitch on a Friday night, and I'd just kind of be asking the other reporters, was that a goal? Is he offside? What's going on here? So that was kind of started off in TV, and then I did a load of other different things like Nationwide Capital Day. I worked in the panel, and that's kind of what I got into comedy. I worked in the panel with Shane Cassidy, who's like a genius, and so then I went from there, and that's when I kind of decided I was like around 24 then, and I was like, right, I was just kind of getting antsy, and I was like, okay, is this it? Like, just RG for the rest of my life? And so I literally was going over the dark line and saw like fly to Los Angeles like sign above it, and I was like, right,
that's it,
I'm off. Told my parents, and they were like, what? And I was like, yeah, I'm going, that's it, you can't stop me. So my boss at the time actually kind of knew someone over there, and he's like, look, I can't really, you know, I've no other context for you over here except this one guy who might be able to tell you something. So I just basically like stalked that guy, Marcus Fox, legend, for a while.
You know, but contacts, I mean, that is how you get your foot in the door, you know.
Exactly,
so, like, it makes sense. I mean, to go over there, at least having a name that you can be introduced to other people and start to...
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the way it was. Like, and he's really good for that kind of stuff. And even when I got over there after I'd been there a few years, then he would be like, you know, pass it on. So then he'd be like, right, now this person's moving over. You show them the ropes. You introduce them to other people.
Great.
So yeah, I just went over, and I managed to get a sponsor, which is great. And then, so I was working there for a couple of years in a creative marketing company. So it was kind of, we did the BTS on like major feature films. So like, you know, all the behind the scenes. So we'd go on set and we'd interview everyone from the producer, the director, the actors, to the costumers, you know, to the floor staff, to everyone. So kind of got a good gauge of everything that goes on. And that was film and TV, you know. So we had a TV show about behind the scenes of films, but also we would do the mini docs for the DVDs of, you know, major films, which is great. And that's live action to animation. It was kind of like jackpot for me because I got to work in Disney a lot. You know, they were doing like Princess and the Frog at the time, and like Tangled, and so like it was just to be in the Disney studios, like,
and to see how different that is, like that whole production.
Oh yeah, but just being there around the top people in the world just makes you want it more. Do you know that kind of way? Just seeing where you could go, like. So it's just like, and I mean, as everyone, a lot of people say, like, you go over there and it does give you a new lease for life. And I know a lot of people are like, it's not for them if you go there, but I firmly believe if you surround yourself by the right people over there, it's the best place to be in the world, you know.
Yeah, because there's always a goal in front of you. Then you can see people in positions or in, you know, in roles that you would aspire to then, and you know.
Exactly, like, and a lot of people, I think, especially if you're Irish, going over there, are very willing to mentor you, like, and you know, kind of introduce you into whatever you're interested in, you know. So I had like a lot of American friends, a lot of Irish friends. I was really lucky I had good Irish friends kind of over there who weren't in the industry as well, like, so it kind of all fed into it. Like, you know, I got to live kind of by the beach in Santa Monica, but then I'd work in Hollywood.
Great.
So I was like, I work in Hollywood.
Yeah. And I'm living on the beach.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. But no, so that was great. Like,
and was mentoring an important part of it? Like, did you find that was something that was was needed when you?
Oh, definitely. I think every job I've ever had, mentors, I just like cling to people. And like I've just always been lucky enough that, you know, like
great people.
Yeah, like, you know, big time, like just willing to, like, if I can help them enough in their day to day, you know, then they'll impart really important information to me, you know.
And that's something that you think you do yourself. Then, like you were saying, when people started coming over, you would actually take them.
Yeah, no, of course, like, and you know, pass it on like as much as I could possibly give to anyone. But even like depending on whatever level I was at, like if I was able to, you know, if I was an assistant, I was able to tell people how easier to get into an assistant job, you know. And it's the same way. It doesn't matter what position you're in, you still have something to give. You know, even if you're at the lowest rung, you can help someone figure out how to get onto that rung. Exactly. You know that kind of way. Yeah. But like, so yeah, I've had some amazing like mentors, male and female, like along the way, you know.
Yeah. And did coming back to Ireland, was that something that you had planned, or was it sort of things became available and you decided actually now is the time when I can do something in Ireland? And
no, well, like I'd always, like when I went over, it wasn't like I was planning on going there forever. It wasn't that I wasn't planning on going there forever either. I was like, let's just go, see what happens, and just do it. And it was kind of like a bit random how I came back, because I was sponsored in LA, and then I was moving to another company, and it was the time of the year when the visas were up. So it was my first time getting a new visa. So I didn't actually know that you couldn't get it at this time of year, or that they were gone. Okay. So I was like, oh, sugar, I have to go in like 2 weeks. And I was really annoyed because I just got a job working on behind the scenes of Glee.
Oh. It's the dream.
It is for me. How sad is that? But like, I thought my life was made. Oh my God, I get to be on Glee. I have the worst music in the world, apparently. Taste, but
you're not doing the music on The Young Offenders.
Oh, I wasn't near it. Not for a second.
Fine.
Anything I liked, they didn't put in it, basically. So I
had to move.
Yeah, so I was like, right, where do I go that's as close to here as possible so that I can come back down, that has a big industry. So I was like, right, I'll go to Vancouver. It's a little bit easier to get a visa for there. I don't have to get a media visa, because at the time I was under 30 and I was able to get the working visa there. So I went down there and started working on an aviation documentary, which was very random.
From Walt Disney to aviation documentary?
Well, I was just looking for any job at all, you know. I mean, before I did that, I was working on set as a PA one day, and my job was solely to turn the light on and off for every 10 seconds. It was one of those lights where it automatically switches off, you know. But the click would kill the sound. So I would just stand next to it and wait for it, click, just try and get it all day long so it wouldn't ruin the set.
So you've got great rhythm.
Great. So I was like, right, this might not be for me after 2 days. So then, I started working. The aviation documentary was great, with a celebrity pilot called John Lovelace. And that was great. We ended up going on kind of an aircraft adventure up to like Saskatchewan. It's just totally another part of the world. Like, as in everyone has
crazy
like
adventure as well.
Oh, it was mental. We brought like 144 pilots and 70 small aircraft up into northern Saskatchewan, and we basically brought them on an aircraft adventure where we just did all these really cool like outdoor stuff with them. It was a documentary for PBS. And so.
And what was your role with that? Like, what were you?
So I was kind of like associate producer, like working with the producer, kind of just pulling everything together. Really, I mean, I had to learn like aircraft knowledge. Couldn't tell you for the life of me now, but I knew what all of the like tailplate said and everything.
You only need it for that 6 month period. You won't need
I learned. Well, I didn't learn to fly, but they did let me fly a little bit, which is a bit scary because I didn't think they were actually letting me fly. But then they did. But no, that was brilliant. And then I was coming back down to LA, and my sister was having a child in Australia. She's my only sister, and she was like, "Look, come out here and see your godson before you go back up there, because he won't. I know you'll stay over there. You'll be like, oh, I can't go. They might fire me." Mm-hmm. So I was like, right, sure, I'll go over. I went over to Melbourne, and I ended up staying there for 6 months. So that was when I kind of changed up a little bit, because my sister works with horses, like kind of race yards in Melbourne, and she was a head lass there. So I ended up actually taking her job riding racehorses.
Wow.
Which was
from airplanes to racehorses.
Very random. Yeah. But no, we have like a bit of a background in horses and stuff. But so yeah, that was pretty scary, but amazing. But I kind of like, within that, I started then filming their footage and editing their footage and sending it off to the owners of like thoroughbreds. So I was like, okay, I kind of feel like I'm staying in the industry. Mm-hmm. And I probably have never been more fit in my whole entire life. Because you're up at like 5 a.m. in the morning, and then you work split shifts, like, and you work until 7 o'clock in the evening. So
yeah, and then if you're on top of that trying to do the film, if you're keeping on top of that as well as the actual work you're doing throughout the day, you're going to be
so it was mental, but it was great. Like, I mean, there's no better feeling than riding a racehorse. Like, kind of did that for a while, and then one day, I was swapped from a horse into another horse last minute, and the girl who rode my horse went out and like broke her like legs all the way down. So I was like, right, guess it's time for me to go back. Yeah. So I was kind of just coming back here for a wedding then and going back to LA, and I came back, met Peter, and haven't left.
Yeah. Right, okay. So we have him to thank.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like I feel like I couldn't go back, do you know what I mean? Yeah. Or I've just it's just been working for me since I came back. And
it's all part of the same cycle really, isn't it?
It is like, and I just took all that experience, came back, and like, I suppose did the Fear of Peter, and then I was kind of freelancing for a while there and did lots of different things. Went back into sport again, like did a bit of the toy show and like sports quiz and
comedy and
comedy,
TV shows. And I mean, for you, you're doing TV and film, and I know this is your first feature start to finish, but you have worked with others as well. Would you have a preference? Would you think would you be drawn more towards the work in TV, producing work in TV or in film?
I don't really know. Like it's hard to say. I suppose now after this now I'm kind of like, right, I think I'm gonna, it's more that like I do love film, but now I'm just finding it really hard to try and like continuously be keeping up with reading scripts, and still because you're kind of thinking, right, well you can do that on the side, and because like I'm getting a good few TV jobs, but now I think I'm like, right, I don't think I can really kind of do both anymore, even though I love TV, but I also love live TV, do you know? So
which is a different animal altogether.
Oh, you can't beat that. Yeah. So obviously it's a process over a year of film, but
that could be connected to a racehorse now. The fact that you like the live TV.
Yeah, maybe
the rush. You're chasing the rush.
I've heard that before. But no, look, I absolutely love both, but I do think that I'm going to be concentrating like on film a lot more. I think they're both great, you know, and like there's so many parts. There's like they're transferable skills. They are,
and I mean certainly in the last couple of years as well, TV has become much higher thought of than it ever would have been before. So there's opportunities now to make shows that are as highly regarded critically as films are. So in the old days, if you were doing TV, it was a lesser thing than film, but I certainly don't think that's the case anymore, and I don't think it's been the case for a long time,
Yeah, no, of course, and I think, obviously we're kind of briefly talking distribution, it's a lot easier for, people to make the crossover now because there's a lot more ways of funding films, and the same with TV, like I think Ireland's never been busier for film or TV at the moment, which is great. It's hard to get staff because everyone's busy. But like, sure, that's not a complaint, I suppose, So you don't I think there's actually a lot of people who I even know in Hollywood come back here for auditions now,
right.
which is mental. Like
when you were you think of everyone going the other direction, but actually you've got a lot going on here. Yeah,
exactly, and especially now with like technology, you can Skype in for calls, interviews, like
and all of that feeds into the production as well. Like you're saying there with the distribution platforms, there is so many different avenues into what you want to do now that it's just become such a fluid industry. Like you can move between things much more quickly and much more easier, so yeah. And I suppose down to funds then, would you find are there kind of universal rules across everywhere you've worked, or is Ireland quite a specific sort of environment for funding a film?
I suppose there's like lots of different ways you can fund anything, going from your short to like your TV show through the studios, or it's obviously for film, the foremost person is the Irish Film Board, and I think they're getting more and more financing back now, and they obviously have a great team in there, and
they've a good system in place that what you're doing when you approach them, and
exactly, and they have a couple of different yearly deadlines now as well, so it's easier for people, like they're not just rushing to make kind of one deadline, and there's lots of co-producing opportunities now, even within the Film Board, RTE, and especially even with the UK now, a lot of them are working with Irish broadcasters and TV and within film. So I think people are just realising that it's not like, the funds aren't as far as away as you would have thought they were before, that kind of way.
Yeah, and would you notice a difference, with the recession kind of, would you have noticed that things got particularly tight, or were you kind of away for a bit of that, or...?
I was away for a bit of it, alright, but I suppose... budgets went down for everyone, and they're coming.
It doesn't stop creativity,
Yeah, definitely not. And I suppose that's kind of maybe when Ireland even flourished a little bit, and people just going out and kind of making it anyway,
Which I think is what we're seeing the back end of right now, because even the fact that the Young Offenders jointly won Best Irish Feature shows that the quality this year was very high. That they couldn't pick between the two.
Yeah, no, like for us to even be on the same platform as with Dave from Mary in a parallel film was like amazing. We were like, this is savage.
Yeah, that's it. So over your career as well, you've worked with tons of studios, like you were saying about Walt Disney and things like that. For this year, at what point does a big studio, and I suppose I'm just kind of I'm doing air quotes there, which is very obnoxious on a podcast, but at what point do big studios tend to get involved? Is it something that you work with along yourself all the way along, and then you bring it to a bigger studio for the distribution, or is it
Yeah, I suppose it totally depends. Like, we're just kind of reaching the point now where, I suppose it depends, obviously, through, like, we're having a lot of chats with people, like, in the UK and in the States now about different things. And it's funny, like, even if you go to, Cannes, for film, or MIP for TV, like, you have access to the biggest people in the studios right there in front of you.
Yeah.
If your idea is good enough, like, they're there to listen. So I think the myth of, that they're all the ways out in Hollywood, like, it definitely doesn't exist anymore, It's like anyone can, obviously you need a contact, but especially if you go to any of those film markets, you can have direct access to the head of, like, these departments. Like, there's no problem, and it'll filter through.
If you've got an idea that's worth selling, that you feel is worth selling, that you're going to find an avenue in, you're going to find a way to talk to them,
Yeah, well, this is the thing, and obviously, the Irish Film Board, have an in with all of these, like, studios as well for co-financing,
And would you find that, like, it would have been seen, I suppose, a predominantly male industry, especially when you're talking about boardrooms and production rooms, and even crews that we would kind of think of cameramen and things like that, like, and the clue is in the word. Would that be your experience now? Would you say that things are changing, that women are having more access and getting more involved at the different levels of filmmaking?
Yeah, definitely. I suppose there's obviously a massive shift at the moment, like with women in film and TV, which is amazing. Like, and I think, like, in Ireland, well, personally, like, I've never felt that it's, that I've been put down in that kind of way, and like a lot of my mentors have been male, and they've been very open to me going up through the ranks, that kind of way. But there's a lot of actresses coming up now, I suppose, especially from Dave from Mary and Hilary Rose and everyone. And like, I suppose in Hollywood it's a little bit different in, like, the executive higher level positions, and obviously for the actresses on, like, big paydays, like, there is clearly a discrepancy there, and we've all read the emails, so we know we know what's going on. But I'm like, it is there, a little bit in Ireland as well. But like, there's definitely a shift, but personally I've never felt like that's been like a massive issue for me.
And I guess even the other side of it is when you're looking at America, I suppose America and Hollywood would be our film touchstone area, like where people would think of when they think of film production, they think of Hollywood. And that would be something that would be in our heads as quite male dominated, because all the movies about producers are always about male producers, and the big producers have always been male producers. But even the fact now that sort of stuff is being reported, like people care now.
Yeah.
Years ago it was just taken for granted that it's men at the top and that's the way it is. Yeah. But like you say about, the actresses, the emails coming out, the fact that they're being paid such a different amount, and that people are actually reacting to that angrily. People are saying this isn't the way it should be.
Yeah.
So it does seem as if things are,
No, definitely. And I suppose it's even making people who are entering the industry even more aware now that if they did think, we'll say, directing was or producing was a more male-dominated thing before, then they're going in with their eyes open to their course or whatever, and all their teachers now being like, well, you could be a director, you don't have to just, be a producer or whatever way it is, that kind of way. And obviously people are now actively also writing scripts, for that are, for women as well, so, or more, I suppose, depending on the theme of it, but I suppose it has to be an even keel as well.
The famous word of balance. This is the difficult part of it all. In general, I suppose, the way it seems, especially in Ireland, because we have got a smaller sort of industry, and people tend to know each other, so networking is very important. It's very important at all levels, but in Ireland it seems to be, people tend to know each other quite a lot. A lot of the media work in the last couple of years has become much more freelance and much more contract based. Like nobody's getting a job for life anymore in any position all the way along. And on the one hand, it kind of seems like people don't want a job for life. When you look at yourself now, what you've come through with the different jobs you've done, that is all giving you something different that you bring now to where you are at this point. So you're not going to want to be at the same point in 10 years. You're not going to want to be in the same exact position. So would you see it as sort of a benefit or a downside to the fact that we don't get permanent jobs anymore, that we're all sort of...
I think it just totally depends on the type of person that you are. Do you know what I mean? And if you would prefer to be in a stable job, or if you prefer to be freelance, because obviously if you're in a permanent job, you can be consistently learning and rising to the top as the same as if you're freelance, have a consistent thirst for knowledge and what's in everyone's brain. So I'm just going to go around trying to pick it. I think contracting is great in that you work in different companies, you learn how different companies are run, because there's no one way to do it. Do you know what I mean? And that's what's great about working with Peter, is he's just always open to, okay, well, maybe we'll just try it this way, or maybe we'll try it this way. Maybe I'm not right, maybe you're not right. Let's ask anyone what they think.
So it's more collaborative then, that you feel more involved.
Of course, but it's, I suppose there isn't as many full-time jobs anymore, but there is, there's still there to be had. It just kind of depends. I personally think it keeps me on my toes. Yeah. And I think it keeps, a lot of people on their toes, having to just be on your game. And it just...
And it keeps the ideas, I suppose, a bit fresh then as well, because I guess you're trying to impress all the time, and I don't mean that you're trying to impress other people. You're actually trying to impress yourself in a way, because you don't want to think, I'm still coming up with the same stuff, I'm still doing the same things as I did 5 years ago. You want to move on.
Yeah, and it's very hard for development and consistently reading different scripts, but it definitely does keep you on your toes. Yeah. I mean, it can be very hard going, obviously.
And do you find yourself thinking in terms of production? When you're reading books or watching plays or anything like that, do you have a little part of your brain that clicks in and says, this would work, or
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm always wondering, someone made that. Let's see if I can find it. See how fast I can Google to see if that's going to be a movie.
Or are people telling good stories at a party? Are you?
Oh yeah, totally. I'm brutal for that with TV shows, though. I'm like, oh yeah, that'd be a great TV show. But then I'm like, no, need to focus on film. Yeah. But yeah, definitely. And I suppose that's the same for writers as well. Yeah. Do you know, they're just writing kind of what they hear around them. Maybe it'd be their friends, or kind of, totally, things like Bridget and Naaman, that's kind of it's Irish.
Where can you
Irish
take this then, Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I'm a serial eavesdropper.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I'm pretty bad. I once followed someone off a bus just to see where they were going.
That's not a conversation. Why were you following this person?
I was just wondering where he went every day.
What is your life, and can I make it into a movie?
Pretty much.
Yeah. So I suppose it's a really weird question to ask, but do you have any tips that would be helpful for somebody thinking about production? Because it's a different thing. Like, I mean, for a lot of people, they think of themselves in terms of being a director or being a writer, that's something they have, in their heads from a young age when they watch movies. I mean, did that happen to you? Did you sort of think production was something you were more interested in from an early age, or?
Well, like, I just loved watching movies, like, do you know what I mean? I don't actually really even watch TV, like, I'll watch my favourite films on TV, like, but I wouldn't sit down and just watch, like, a run-of-the-mill game show or whatever,
Except for Glee.
Not run-of-the-mill, thank you. But, like, movies, I just absolutely adore them. Like, I didn't know what I wanted to do in them. Actually, I think I wanted to be an actor when I was young.
But you just knew movies was where...
Yeah, like, and then that kind of just started with TV, it just seemed like the logical thing that was closer to get to, that kind of way. But, like, I've always loved movies, so I just kind of, just wanted to get into them and started the path.
And just as an offshoot of that, because I'm asking random ones here now, excuse me, you've covered a ton of different genres, and even yourself, like working with the sports and working with, all these different things. Is there something that you would come back to? Like, do you find comedy a nicer thing to work with? I know you were saying live TV is something that you absolutely love. Is that tied in with the comedy end of things? Is it live comedy sort of TV that you prefer, and then does that translate to the movies? Like, is it comedy that you...
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely comedy, and, like, mostly because, I just like having the crack on set. If you're laughing, and, like, during the Young Offenders, I swear to God, 90% of the time we were just laughing.
Yeah.
It was, like, the lines on the page were funny, but the random, like, lines the lads were coming up with were funny. Obviously, it's nice to be a comedy environment, but I love watching, dramas, thrillers, like, there's,
And a lot of the best comedy anyway has currents of, truth and drama running underneath it anyway,
Yeah.
And I think it's something that the Irish do quite well, and a lot of our films reflect that, is that you have the funny moments, but the characters will always have these moments of depth and moments of drama that you really can identify with as well,
Yeah, no, of course, and I think that's hopefully what we had in the Young Offenders as well. But I mean, like, Irish comedies are just amazing, like, like Snapper, Commitments, like, they're just the most amazing movies, like, Man About a Dog, like, a load of them, like, they're just brilliant. The Guard, like, hello. But yeah, I actually don't really watch, like, big Hollywood comedy movies, or, I mean, I appreciate Bridesmaid and blah blah blah, but I like making comedy, even though I may not watch as many comedies on TV as I would, like, dramatic thrillers or whatever.
No, and we have a particular relationship to it in this country because our storytelling and everything, it's all very comedy based, even when it is, like I was saying, even when it is serious. We do go back to it, like, it's part of our conversation, I think.
Like, even Into the West, like, that's not a comedy, yet I think it's the best movie in the whole entire world. If I could just make something like Into the West, I'd be happy for the rest of my life. Take it all.
And so, like, for somebody who was trying to get into the industry, would you advise to do, as you were saying, like, to try and get into a few different things, try and experience as much as you can in the different roles? And
definitely.
Move yourself along that way.
I mean, like, when I know on TV anyway, like, I understand, like, nearly all the roles the whole way up, so like, it's easier for you to produce if you understand why people are having problems with different roles, or just kind of having a fuller knowledge of it. Like, I wouldn't, like, techie wise now, I wouldn't be the most techie person in the world, but on the production side of it, it's like Peter's like Mr. Techie, Mr. Editor, Mr. Director, Mr. Producer. You're just like, shoot me now. But, like,
this is years of work. Put all this together after years of work.
But I mean, I definitely advise people having, look around in different departments if they don't know what they do, and that'll, like, kind of maybe help them make that decision. Like, I always knew that I kind of wanted to take the producing role once I got into it, I never really wanted to direct, And I think a lot of people fall into directing as well, or they might come from the editing side of it, totally depends.
But for you, that wasn't what attracted you. You enjoyed the production end.
Yeah, like, I just kind of like putting it together.
Yeah. That's the library stuff. See it all.
I knew that was going to happen when I studied it for 3 years. I thought, there's a reason I'm looking at this library book.
Nothing's ever wasted,
It's not, though. That is true.
Yeah.
Like, even turning on that light switch on and off gave me patience like I've never seen before.
Yeah. Well, on that note, listen, thanks a million for talking to us. It was really good, and it's just great to hear all the different things that you've done. Basically, I mean, you're incredibly eclectic, and I'm sure it won't be the last we're hearing from you.
Hopefully.
So The Young Offenders is out Friday.
Yeah, September 16th.
It's
general release, yeah, it actually is having the largest release of any Irish film this year.
Wow.
Thanks to
This
Patrick over
podcast
at
was
Well
brought to
Bird.
you by Film Ireland in partnership with
Thank
Women
you.
in Film
Thank
and
you.
Television
Thank
Ireland.
you. Cheers.